It began in silence. June 5th, 1944. While the world slept, an invasion force waited in darkness. 5,000 ships. Hundreds of thousands of men. One gold break, the grip of Nazi Germany on Europe. But before that strike, there stood a wall. The Atlantic Wall, built by Hitler and reinforced by Field Marshal Rommel. It stretched over 4,000 miles from Norway to Spain. Its purpose to repel any Allied invasion before it reached the shore. It was a masterpiece of defense concrete bunkers buried into cliffs, long-range artillery batteries, and machine guns watching every angle. The beaches were death traps, landmines, steel hedgehogs, underwater obstacles, and explosive lest, wooden poles sharpened like spears. Rommel believed the invasion had to be stopped at the shoreline. He filled the tidal zones with hidden explosives and buried death beneath. The German soldiers called it the Iron Wall. They believed no army on earth could break through it, but the Allies didn't plan to face it directly. They planned to deceive it. Operation Bodyguard, the largest deception campaign in military history. Its goal: convince Hitler that the invasion would land at Calinot, Normandy. A fake army was created. Rubber tanks, wooden aircraft, dummy landing craft, and fake camps. False radio traffic, intercepted by German intelligence, painted the picture of a massive force ready to strike elsewhere. At the heart of this deception was Juan Pujol Garcia. He fed Germany a steady stream of lies so convincing. He received the Iron Cross from the Nazis. Meanwhile, he worked entirely for the British. Fake units, fake officers, fake invasions in Norway and the Balkans. Hitler bought it all, even as real Allied troops began crossing the Channel toward Normandy. He remained convinced the attack was a diversion. The real blow, he believed, would fall on Calais. He refused to move his elite panzer divisions. He left Normandy vulnerable, but deception alone wouldn't win the beach. The Allies needed machines. New ones. They needed tanks that could swim. So they built them. The D.D. Sherman duplex drive, a standard Sherman tank fitted with a collapsible canvas screen and twin propellers. When deployed, the tank floated. In calm water, it performed well. In rough seas, many sank, but enough survived. On the beaches, their firepower would be critical. They needed landing craft that could storm sand under fire. The Higgins boat, flat-bottomed, fast, and designed to unload troops directly onto shore, became essential. They built massive LSTs, landing ship tanks, capable of carrying tanks and trucks straight to the beaches. Each had a ramp in front, opening like jaws. They even built harbors, portable, floating ports to unload cargo after the beaches were taken. They were called mulberries. Everything had been tested. Some experiments failed. Some cost lives. What worked was ready. The original invasion date was June 5th, but a storm rolled across the channel. Waves surged. Wind howled. Postponement risked exposing the plan. Going forward meant braving the sea. General Dwight D. Eisenhower made the decision. We go. June 6th was the date. The Allied fleet began moving under cover of night operation. Neptune, the largest naval operation in history. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, transports, and landing craft crossed the water in silence. Men wrote final letters. Commanders reviewed their maps. No one knew what the next 24 hours would bring. But every man knew this. They were about to begin the fight to free Europe. And before the sun would rise, the first men of the invasion wouldn't land. They would fall from the sky. It began before dawn, not from the sea, but from the sky. 20,000 Allied paratroopers descended into darkness. The 101st and 82nd Airborne Divisions of the United States, the 6th Airborne Division of Britain. Their mission was simple: land behind enemy lines, disrupt communication, capture bridges, and hold key terrain. But nothing about the night went according to plan. Clouds and anti-aircraft fires scattered the planes. Many troops missed their drop zones. Some landed alone, miles from their objectives. Others drowned in flooded fields. Still, they moved. They regrouped in small bands. They launched ambushes, cut roads, destroyed German positions. British glider troops stormed and secured Pegasus Bridge. American paratroopers seized road junctions and canal locks. German commanders couldn't understand what was happening. Reports came in from every direction. They believed they were under attack from an army that didn't exist. The deception had worked, and the confusion it caused would continue as the real storm approached the beaches at Omaha Beach. The first waves of American troops approached the shore. Strong currents pushed them 2,000 yards south of their intended landing zone. General Theodore Roosevelt Jr. landed with the first wave. Realizing the mistake, he gave a simple order: "We'll start the war from right here." Mistake became a blessing. The area had lighter defenses than expected. German forces were weak and disorganized. Amphibious tanks made it ashore and provided fire support. The battleship USS Nevada pounded German positions inland. Troops pushed forward, linking with airborne units already behind the lines by the end of the day. The Americans had advanced for miles inland. Casualties were under 200. It was the most successful of all Allied landings. But at Omaha Beach, it was a different story. Here, the American 1st and 29th Infantry Divisions faced Germany's veteran 352nd Division. The beach was narrow, steep, and fully covered by enemy fire. The Allied bombardment failed to destroy German bunkers. As the landing craft approached, machine guns opened fire. Mortar exploded on the sand. Flamethrower units were killed before they reached the shore. Tanks meant to support the landing sank in rough surf or were destroyed before reaching land. American troops were pinned down. Company A of the 116th Infantry lost nearly every man in the first minutes. Bodies floated in the surf. Equipment burned on the sand. Colonel George Taylor gave a grim order. There are two kinds of people on this beach. Those who are dead and those who are going to die. Now, let's get the hell out of here. And they did. Small units began to move forward. They crawled across open sand, climbed the bluffs under fire, and fought their way into German trenches. Lieutenant John Spaulding and Staff Sergeant Philip Strechik led one of the first successful breakouts from the beach. Meanwhile, several U.S. Navy destroyers, against standing orders, moved dangerously close to shore. They opened direct fire on German bunkers, silencing key positions. This allowed more troops to break through. By midday, American forces had gained a fragile foothold. By nightfall, they had advanced beyond the beach and linked up with airborne troops inland. But the cost was staggering. Over 2,000 Americans were killed, wounded, or missing. The sand at Omaha ran red. The beach was choked with the wreckage of landing craft, tanks, and fallen soldiers. It would be remembered forever as Bloody Omaha to the east. British and Canadian forces landed at Gold, Juno, and Sword beaches. At Gold, British troops faced heavy resistance from entrenched German units. Specialized armored vehicles, including flail tanks and mine clearers, led the way. Despite obstacles, they broke through and captured the town of Bayeux at Juno. The Canadian 3rd Infantry Division landed under intense fire. They advanced through fortified villages and beach defenses. By the end of the day, they had pushed further inland than any other Allied force at Sword. British troops landed near the Orne River. They faced an unexpected counterattack from the 21st Panzer Division. With support from airstrikes and anti-tank guns, they repelled the assault and secured key objectives by nightfall. The Allies had established beachheads at all 5 invasion sites. They had linked with airborne units. They had breached the Atlantic Wall. But success had come at a terrible cost. Thousands were dead. Thousands more lay wounded across sand, field, and road. The wall had been broken. But Hitler had not yet responded. The German counterattack had not come. The fate of Europe now hung on what would happen in the next 24 hours. As night fell on June 6th, Allied troops held fragile ground along the coast of Normandy. The Atlantic Wall was breached. The beaches were secured. But the greatest danger still loomed: a massive German counterattack. The Allies expected it, braced for it, but it didn't come. Inside the German command, confusion reigned. Reports of paratroopers and beach landings clashed. Some officers believed Normandy was a diversion. They waited for the real invasion at Calais. This was exactly what the Allies wanted. The deception from Operation Bodyguard had worked. Even after thousands of Allied troops had stormed the beaches, Adolf Hitler remained convinced the main attack was still to come. He refused to release key panzer divisions. Field Marshal Rommel wasn't even in France. He had returned to Germany for his wife's birthday. When he learned of the invasion, he rushed back, but time was already lost. Some German commanders tried to act. The 21st Panzer Division launched a small counterattack towards Sword Beach, but Allied air superiority tore into their columns. Bridges had been bombed, convoys delayed, planes dominated the skies. German movement was restricted to nighttime. Meanwhile, the 15th Army remained near Calais, waiting for an invasion that would never come. This paralysis gave the Allies time to dig in, reinforce, and expand their beachheads. In the first 24 hours, the Allies had landed over 150,000 men. They had linked most of their airborne and amphibious forces. Engineers worked around the clock to unload supplies, build defenses, and clear obstacles. Medics treated the wounded on beachheads under threat of sniper fire. Commanders assessed the damage and pushed forward. But Normandy itself presented a new challenge. Thick hedgerows divided every field. Stone walls, narrow lanes, and centuries-old terrain turned the countryside into a natural fortress. German defenders used it to full advantage, ambushing tanks, launching mortars from behind cover, vanishing before return fire could find them. To overcome this, American soldiers welded steel teeth to their tanks. These makeshift hedgerow cutters plowed through the undergrowth. Infantry worked closely with armor and artillery in coordinated assaults in the east. British and Canadian forces faced their own bitter fight. The German 12th SS Panzer Division fought fiercely to hold the city of Caen. Repeated attempts to retake the city failed. Each attack came at a high cost. It would take weeks of combat and bombing to finally break through. The campaign slowed. Every mile was earned in blood. Then came a breakthrough on July 25, 1944. The Allies launched Operation Cobra. Over 3,000 Allied aircraft dropped bombs on a narrow section of German lines west of St. Lay. The result was devastating. German defenses shattered. American armored divisions surged forward. The stalemate broke. The Allies poured through the gap. Towns and villages fell in rapid succession. German units retreated in disorder. Resistance collapsed in the west. The Allies had broken free of the beachhead. The breakout turned into a race. Free French forces joined the push toward their capital. German morale crumbled. On August 25, 1944, Paris was liberated. Crowds lined the streets. Flags returned. Tears and cheers filled the city. France was free again. The success of the Normandy campaign came at a terrible price. From June 6th to August 21st, Allied casualties exceeded 226,000 men, over 153,000 Americans, nearly 73,000 British and Canadian. German casualties were estimated between 200,000 and 250,000. Entire divisions were decimated. Entire towns destroyed. But the Allies had done what many thought impossible. They had landed. They had fought. They had won. And now, the road to Germany lay open. The impact of D-Day and the Normandy campaign would reshape the war end. The world, it opened the second front that Stalin had long demanded. It split German forces between East and West. It drained their reserves, exposed their weakness, and set the stage for the final assault on Berlin. It also changed the future of warfare, amphibious. Operations became a model for future battles. Joint coordination between Army, Navy, and Air Force became doctrine. Deception became recognized as a weapon. So did logistics, engineering, and innovation under fire. D-Day was not just a battle. It was a turning point, a breach in the wall, a signal to occupied Europe that liberation was real, that the Allies were coming, that tyranny had a limit, and that the courage of thousands on those beaches, in those skies, and through those hedgerows would ignite the downfall of Nazi Germany.